Week number 4 of the NFL season is officially here, and we have some banger matchups. So in today's video, I'll be giving you guys my prediction to every single game of week number 4 of the 2025 NFL season. Subscribe and like the video if you're going to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin with our Thursday night football matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. This is a big matchup for obvious reasons. In divisional matchups in a division that I think is pretty wide open, this will be a very important game for both these teams, primarily the Seattle Seahawks. Both of these teams are 2-1. The Cardinals have not looked great so far despite being 2-1, whereas for Seattle, week 1 was a little bit ugly, but since then they have bounced back. Most recently with a blowout victory where they looked really good on all three phases. This is a get-right game for the Arizona Cardinals, or at least they have to get right. If they don't get right this game, I really do worry about where this Cardinals team is heading because they have a ton of talent on both sides of the football. But right now on the offensive end, they're struggling to execute. They don't have any big plays downfield. And just the creative play calling is not there at the moment. You also don't have the James Conner injury, so that's going to severely hurt their running attack. So they're going to be relying on guys like Trey Benson and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride to really step up and make plays to get this team over the finish line. They have an excellent defense that's actually playing some really good football. They're just now missing that offensive explosiveness. Whereas on the flip side for Seattle, they also have an excellent defense, by far the better defense in this game, but they also have an offense that has shown life these past couple weeks. Sam Darnold to JSN has been an excellent combination this year. It's only going to get better. You got a lot of other moving pieces here like Cooper Kupp, multiple running backs, some tight ends that are pretty interesting. I think the Seahawks team is just right now playing a better brand of football. It is an in-division matchup though, so this game will be close, but ultimately, I do have the Seattle Seahawks winning this game 24-20. Moving over to a Sunday morning game in Dublin, we have the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, from what I have heard, it does sound like JJ McCarthy will not be playing in this game, which is either a good thing for the Minnesota Vikings or a bad thing. JJ McCarthy he has not looked the part so far. Again, it's only been 2 weeks, so let's give him time. I'm not ready to throw the book out on him, but in this game, this is a very winnable matchup for the Minnesota Vikings, and if you have a quarterback that's going to hold you back, it might not be the worst thing that he won't play in this game. I do think Carson Wentz will get the start, and Carson Wentz looked fine in his last game. He wasn't anything incredible, but he didn't turn the ball over. He made all the right plays. He handed the ball off well. He just handled the operations very fluently, and I think that's what you need here against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has really not impressed me so far. I know they have a decent record. I know they've made some plays, but I just really haven't been blown away with the victories they have been getting. Defensively, they're not playing particularly well. They had a ton of turnovers versus New England that allowed them to win that game, but when you do a deeper dive, New England probably should have won that game. They basically had more total yards, more total passing yards, more total running yards. Just turnovers hurt them in that game. And in week 1 versus the Jets, Justin Fields was really getting going. And then, of course, Seattle beat them in week 2. So I just don't really know how I feel about the Steelers team on either side of the football. Whereas for the Minnesota Vikings, I have my fair share of questions. But what I do know is that defense is incredible, and I think they will make life brutal for Aaron Rodgers. I expect some turnovers. I expect a ton of pressure on Rodgers. Rodgers has to get the ball out of his hands fast, and unfortunately, I just don't know if he has the weapons on the outside to make big plays with some of the underneath stuff. I also don't really know what I'm getting from the running game right now. The offensive line is weak. Unless Pittsburgh's defense really steps up this game, I think Minnesota runs with this one. I'm not going to call it a blowout because I do think these are two competent, well-coached teams in which I think the Steelers will be able to get some points on the board. It just kind of happens to be that I think the Minnesota Vikings in general are just a better overall roster on both sides of the field. Now, if this Vikings offensive line has some issues, which they will because TJ Watt is incredible. If TJ Watt has a big game, maybe gets some turnovers, helps create an interception or a forced fumble, this could become a game that just sort of comes down to which team can outgrit the other one, and maybe Pittsburgh might be able to do so. But I do think when it comes down to it, Minnesota has a little bit too much talent to not beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings here. I have the final score 22-18. Moving over to the Washington Commanders versus the Atlanta Falcons. So we don't know if Jaden Daniels will be playing in this game. I don't honestly know if my opinion of this game matters too much, whether he does or does not play. But if Jaden Daniels does play, obviously I feel better about the Commanders. If he doesn't, I still think Mariota's totally fine. I'm going to make the assumption that Daniels does play in this game, but I will also give you a second score prediction if he does not play in this game. Let's get this out the way. The Atlanta Falcons have to figure things out on the offensive end. They have to. They have a great running back, some excellent receivers. Michael Penix Jr. has to step up and play better football, but not just him. The guys around him also have to step up. Not just the players, but also the coaching staff. The coaching staff has to be a bit more creative. They have to find ways to get the ball out in space, create explosive plays downfield. And Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, all those guys on the outside, they have to gain some chemistry and get a better connection with their young quarterback. A lot of pressure is being put on Penix, but I also think some pressure needs to be put on the other more seasoned guys. So for Atlanta, this is a tough challenge. Washington is a very good team, and Washington, whether they have Daniels or not, will be able to move the football because they have a really solid rushing attack, an offensive line that's good enough, and they have some weapons on the outside that can make some explosive plays. And defensively, Washington, they may not have the star power of some other teams, but their defensive line has great rush lanes. They don't really have a guy that consistently wins, but they have 4 dudes who play in sync and do a great job of collapsing a pocket. And with Michael Penix not being an athletic quarterback, that could definitely hurt them. And I think the Washington Commanders have a good enough secondary to hold back a London or Mooney. Not saying they're incredible, but they're good enough. This is just a tough matchup for the Atlanta Falcons. So if Daniels does play, and if Daniels is basically what he usually is, I have the Washington Commanders winning this game at 31-20. However, if Jaden Daniels does not play this game and Marcus Mariota starts this game, I'm going to lean with the Atlanta Falcons to win a very tight game. So if Mariota does get the start, I guess I will lean Atlanta 23-20. But again, my main prediction is Jaden Daniels playing, Washington 31-20. Moving over to the LA Chargers versus the New York Giants. The LA Chargers have been one of the best teams in the NFL. I believe I have them number 3 in my power rankings. I think they're an incredible football team that has a lot of things going for them. With that said, the New York Giants, despite being an 0-3 team, are still a very competitive team. Now, breaking news, Jackson Dart will be the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. I do not personally agree with the decision. I would have personally went with Jameis Winston just because I don't think it's a smart idea to throw out your young quarterback in what is going to be a tough stretch of games upcoming for this Giants team where they have a ton of really good opponents, including this LA Chargers team that has an incredible defense. I think this is a terrible idea for Brian Daboll. I understand that the pressure was on him to make a decision. I personally, again, would have went with Jameis Winston because I think Jameis is at this stage, arguably a better football player than Russell Wilson in terms of just creating offense. Yes, he'll throw turnovers, but I mean, at least he'll score touchdowns. Regardless, though, they do go with Jackson Dart. So I expect a very simplistic game plan from this Giants offense, which I think actually works really nicely for this Chargers defense. I think the Chargers can get after the quarterback. They're excellent open field tacklers. They're good against the run. I just really don't see how this Giants offense is going to have consistent productivity throughout the game. However, I do think the Giants defense is good, and I expect Jackson Dart to maybe play a little bit better than Russell Wilson. That does pose a pretty sizable challenge for the Chargers. The Chargers will be heavy favorites, and rightfully so, but I don't think they're just going to win this game 50-0. I do expect a close competitive game where I think the Chargers are always in front or just handling their business, but the Giants are always within some sort of striking distance. Regardless, though, I am going to lean on the Chargers to win this one. I just think they have the better quarterback. I love the weapons on the outside. Quentin Johnson has looked great so far. No Najee Harris, but I do believe Hampton will start to get a bit better on the field. And defensively, I just think they're an excellent unit. So I will lean with the LA Chargers here. Again, I'm going to have a final score of 21-14, but I do think the Chargers will handle their business throughout the game. Next up, the Tennessee Titans going up against the Houston Texans. Now, both these teams are 0-3, and obviously neither team has had the start they probably wanted, especially if you are the Houston Texans. This could be a get-right game for the Houston Texans, but if they're not careful or if they overlook their opponent, this Titans team can win this game. The Titans have a lot of solid personnel. They have a quarterback that's a bit of a gunslinger and not afraid to try and make plays downfield. And they have enough personnel on defense to make life somewhat difficult for CJ Stroud. I do think Houston is the better team, and I do think Houston has the better defense. But at this current stage, with what I have seen on the field, I don't think it's an understatement to say, or maybe an exaggeration to say, the Titans might have the better offense than the Houston Texans, which is a crazy statement to be said, but I think that might be the case. CJ Stroud, let's just be honest, has regressed in some ways. I don't want to put all the blame on him. I want to put most of the blame on upper management for putting the worst offensive line in the NFL in back-to-back years on the field. I also blame the front office for not retaining guys like Stephon Diggs and things of that nature to give him more continuity. Then you blame them 100%, but this offensive line is absolutely atrocious, and CJ Stroud has regressed because of it. They also just do not have the ground game that's consistently going, and Nico Collins, as good of a player as he is, he's consistently injured. So even though he's been healthy this year, we'll keep an eye out on that one. Defensively, Houston is elite, though. They have an exceptionally great defense that can create turnovers, absolutely get after the quarterback, and I do expect Houston to have success in this game defensively. But for the sake of having fun, I think I might go with the underdog here with the Tennessee Titans. I just have more faith in this offense, which is crazy to say. I could just see Cam Ward making a couple highlight throws that, go deep down the field and they pick up a field goal here and there. Whereas this Texans offense, I don't know if they could even score like 20 points right now. Tennessee has looked decent enough on offense versus a couple of really solid defenses, including the Denver Broncos. And, look, they've been blown out in most of their games, but they've been going up against good offenses. I don't know if Houston is even like a decent offense. They're a bad offense. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans to upset here. I personally think Houston should win this game, but with the way that things are going right now, I'm going to go Tennessee. I'm going to have a very close game, and I'm going to have Tennessee winning on a game-winning field goal. The final score, 17-16. I could be completely wrong. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another great test here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Last week, the LA Rams. Of course, they had the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago. Now they're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So far, the Eagles have handled their business, and in the second half of week 3 against the LA Rams, the offense got going. The passing game got going, which is great news for any Philadelphia Eagles fans. Now, for Tampa Bay, last week was not the prettiest of games. They handled business for 3 quarters, fell asleep on the wheel. The Jets get back in that game, and then Tampa Bay has to go down and score. Tampa Bay has looked solid so far. Have they looked incredible? No. They're also coming into this game with a ton of injuries on the offensive end. They're missing Mike Evans, I believe. They're missing guys on the offensive line. Chris Godwin's still out. So this Buccaneers team is heading into this matchup with a couple of limitations. Regardless, though, I still do believe Tampa Bay has the roster that could compete with Philadelphia. They got the defensive line that can absolutely stuff the run. I do believe Philadelphia is going to have to pass the football if they want to win this game. And based off what I saw last week, I do think they are capable of doing it. But can they do it for 4 straight quarters from the get-go? I'm not sure yet. I wish Tampa Bay was fully healthy, because if Tampa Bay was fully healthy, I maybe would have predicted the Buccaneers to win this game, just because I think Philadelphia would have to be a bit one-dimensional with the passing game, which I don't think suits their strengths. But given the fact that Tampa Bay just doesn't have the personnel right now on the offensive end with all of the injuries, I am going to lean Philadelphia to win this game. This is a really fun matchup that I do believe could go either way, but I think Philly should be the favorite, not by a ton, but by a decent bit, just because they're the healthier team with a good amount of momentum coming from that last victory. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I do think Tampa Bay keeps it close, though, but I'm going to go with the Eagles to win 28-26. Moving over to the Carolina Panthers versus the New England Patriots. The Carolina Panthers are coming off a game in which they got a ton of momentum with a huge blowout victory against the Atlanta Falcons. This week, they're going up against the Patriots team that, regardless of their record, I do think is a fine football team. They're an inexperienced football team that makes a ton of mistakes, but I think they're still a very talented team that has a lot of room to grow. I think this is an important matchup for both of these teams. I don't necessarily think that either team would be, totally screwed if they lose the game. But for the Carolina Panthers, if you get a victory here, that gives Bryce Young and Dave Canales and all these young pieces, a bit more breathing room to feel a bit more comfortable about their jobs. I mean, a lot of conversation that's been going on this year has been about, does Bryce Young look like the guy? Is Dave Canales the guy? You get a victory here, you can sort of silence the guys, especially if you do play very well. Bryce Young wasn't spectacular last week, but he didn't have to be. They were up big, and they relied on the defense, which is a crazy statement to be said, but they did so. This, though, is a tougher matchup. I do think New England has the offense that they know how to move the football down the field. And even though the Patriots defense has been somewhat disappointing, I think they're good enough to pose a bit of a problem for Bryce. Not saying Bryce will completely struggle in this game, but I could see this Patriots defense, making some issues for him. As for Bryce Young and as for Drake May, I think for Bryce Young, the goal here is just to look really good on the field. Maybe go for over 200 yards with multiple touchdowns. and no turnovers, more importantly. As for Drake May, play efficient football, no more turnovers, no more ugly sacks, and just play clean football. That's sort of been the struggle for this Patriots team, playing clean football. If the Patriots play clean football, I think they win this game. But if the Panthers can muck it up a little bit, force some turnovers, make Drake May uncomfortable, and if the offense can get going, then I think the Panthers will win this game. To me, this game is actually quite close, and I honestly feel like I can make an argument for either team to win this one, but I am going to slightly lean with the Patriots. I just think they're a better team, and I just trust Mike Vrabel a little bit more, and if Drake May can limit the turnovers, especially the fumbles, I'm going to go with the Patriots here. I think it's a close game. I do think both teams show some life and show promise to their fan bases. I'm going to go with the Patriots 20-17. Moving over to the Buffalo Bills going against the New Orleans Saints. I'm not going to talk too much about this one. The New Orleans Saints are a super young team that have a lot of things not going for them. The offensive line has not looked as good as I thought they were going to. Spencer Rattler, though, hey, he's been playing some decent football. So if I'm a Saints fan, I might be okay with running Spencer Rattler for a year or two while we try to build this roster and see if we can get a franchise quarterback in a few years. That's a conversation for another day, though. But Rattler's looked fine. Outside of that, Saints, I think they're a feisty team. I think they can be competitive at times. They're not just going to quit on their young head coach, but I'm not a big believer in Kellen Moore. I thought it was a pretty bad hire. We'll see if it ends up working out for him. I think Kellen Moore is just a better coordinator than head coach. We'll wait and see, though. It's too early to tell. Buffalo's the better team. Buffalo should win this game handily. Now, if there's any way that Buffalo loses it, it's because of either A, injuries, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, or B, they just fall asleep at the wheel for the entire game. If they show up for one quarter, they will win this game. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills 34-14. But again, the Saints, I think, can make this one a little bit interesting, maybe early, but I have the Buffalo Bills winning handedly. Moving over to the Cleveland Browns versus the Detroit Lions. Now, quietly, the Cleveland Browns might have the best defense in the NFL. Nobody's talking about it, but man, that defense for Cleveland looks really freaking good right now. They've held very good offenses to very little production. The Green Bay Packers, the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, and even Lamar Jackson. I know Lamar scored 4 touchdowns and had a nice day, but it took them a while to really get going. This Browns defense is actually quite good. Unfortunately, though, they just don't have the offense, especially at the quarterback position, to really do a whole bunch. They can limit guys to 10 points, but they can barely score 10 points their own. I mean, let's not forget the Packers scored 10 points the entire game. It took the Browns 4 quarters to score 13. They had 0 points, I believe, heading into the 4th quarter. This offense just is not good at all. However, their defense is incredible. So I do think they will limit this Detroit Lions offense a little bit, but I still think the Lions are going to win this game. They just have too much firepower on the offensive end. I could see Amon-Ra having a nice game, Jameson Williams making a big play downfield. That makes things very difficult for Cleveland to try and bounce back out of. Cleveland's defense will get stops. They'll get after the quarterback. They'll stuff the run quite well. When it comes down to it, though, I think Cleveland just cannot mount the drives to keep up with Detroit, whereas I do think Detroit can mount a few drives on the game that go down for touchdowns, which basically open up the game for a potential blowout. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win this game. I have the final score 21-9. Moving over to the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, it does sound like Brock Purdy is going to be coming back for this game. However, there is still a possibility that Mac Jones does come back, but it does sound like they're going to go with Brock Purdy for this one, even though I don't think they really need to rush him back. I would probably go with the backup quarterback if he's okay. Nick Bosa is out for the season, which makes that defense a lot more questionable, especially along the defensive line and their pass rushers. That's a huge loss. And now they're having some other offensive injuries too. There's just a lot of things not going for this Niners team. Regardless, though, with Brock Purdy coming back, that does definitely help out their offense a ton. Jacksonville is just trying to figure things out right now. Defensively, Jacksonville is playing some exceptionally good football. But on the offensive end, Lawrence and Liam Cohen and BTJ and even Travis Hunter really haven't gotten going yet. I don't know whether it's a schematic fault or a quarterback fault. I think it's a bit of combination of everyone's fault. Right now, this offense just is not playing good football. Very inefficient, a lot of turnovers. Just not good football. That's just the bottom line here. And even though I don't think San Francisco has this world-beating defense, I think they're good enough to make life difficult for Trevor Lawrence. On the other side, I do believe that Jacksonville has the defense that can make life difficult for Brock Purdy, especially with all the injuries they are going through. Still, though, I just trust Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan more so right now than I do with Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen. even if San Francisco is dealing with a bajillion injuries. So I'm going to lean on the experience of Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan to get them through this game. Could Jacksonville win? Sure. It wouldn't shock me, but I'm going to lean with the San Francisco 49ers here. I'm going to go with the final score 24-16. Moving over to the LA Rams going up against the Indianapolis Colts. I would make the argument that this might be one of the most intriguing games of this week. I will 100% be having most of my attention on this game because I think this game will tell us a lot about the Indianapolis Colts. Not really the LA Rams, because I think we know what that Rams team is. We saw it last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they probably should have won the game, but things happened. But going up against this Colts team, man, this is a great opportunity for Indianapolis to prove that they are a legit team. Now, I've said this in past videos. I don't think this Colts team has to win this game. I think they just have to show that they can compete and that they can keep this game close, and that their quarterback, more specifically in Daniel Jones, can keep up the level of play that we've seen in past weeks upcoming for this week. If we can get that out of this Colts team, then I think you have to feel really good about the potential of what this team could be, because they've looked so good through 3 weeks, but they haven't really beaten a super elite opponent yet. This is that super elite opponent that if they can manage to beat or to keep the game close, that will give you a ton of confidence moving forward. Let's look at Indianapolis. They have elite weapons on the outside, an elite running back, a great offensive line, and a quarterback that is playing with some very good confidence and rhythm right now. And defensively, they can make some plays. They're not perfect by no means, but they can create turnovers. They can limit productivity down the field. They can eliminate explosives. Occasionally, they'll give up some drives, but it's a good defense. I do believe the Rams, though, are the better overall team. They have flaws in their secondary, but outside of that, their front seven is really good. Their offense is incredible. Matthew Stafford has taken some hits, and I think Indianapolis can get after the quarterback a little bit, so I worry about that. But as long as the Rams can get the ball to their playmakers, Adams and Puka Nacua, they can run the football effectively, I'm going to lean the LA Rams, but I do believe what I said will come true, as in the Colts will keep this one very close and feel really good despite losing. I have the final score 31 LA, 28 Indianapolis, which I think might be a huge win-win for both these teams. Moving over to the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Chicago Bears. Both of these teams have been kind of disappointing this year. The Raiders had a huge week 1 victory, but since then they just have fallen apart a little bit. Whereas Chicago, they fell apart in weeks 1 and 2, but showed some life in week 3. I still think both these teams are work in progresses, but I think one team is peaking right now, whereas the other team is kind of falling right now. The Bears are coming off their best game and probably feeling a little bit better about themselves, whereas for the Raiders, this is probably more of a low for them at this point in the season, despite it still being early. The Raiders just do not have the offensive line to really do a whole bunch. Fortunately, though, in this game, the Bears' defensive line is not like incredible or anything like that. They have dudes that can go, but ultimately they're not going to completely change the game by any means. So I could see a world where the Las Vegas Raiders win this game, but I'm going to go with the team that is feeling a bit more confident in themselves, in Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears. I do think the Bears will win this game because I think they have a better offense right now. And defensively, I know they were so bad in weeks 1 and 2, and even against the Dallas Cowboys, they were not that great. I just don't know if this Raiders team has the balance to find a way to stay in this game. I just don't think they have it right now. I think they have to be very aggressive passing the football, which they have playmakers on the outside, but when you basically telegraph what you're going to do, it makes life a little bit easier for the Chicago Bears. I think we get a bit of a back and forth game. I don't know if it's really a high scoring game, but I think we get a couple turnovers. I believe we see some guys get after the quarterback. I think we just get a really fun game that, these two teams are not playoff teams. We know that, but these are two teams that want to get going in the right direction. So I think this could be a fun game to see which team is ahead of the other team right now in, retooling and rebuilding their roster. I do like the veterans more on the Raiders, but they're just not playing great football right now. So I'm going to lean the Chicago Bears. I have the final score 20-17. Moving over to the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, surprisingly, both these teams are 1 and 2, which if you had told me that at the start of the year, I would have said you're lying, but here we are. Both of these teams are 1 and 2, and one of these teams will enter week 5 1-3 on the football season. The Chiefs are a banged up offense that may get Xavier Worthy back at some point very soon, which I think will allow them to be a bit more explosive on the offensive end. But I just don't really know if Worthy is the complete game changer that this offense kind of needs right now. Thornton has been awesome for this Chiefs team, and I think that as the season progresses, he will get more and more opportunities. And this Chiefs defense is still very, very good. I just don't know if they can run the football and maintain a balance on the offensive end. And I also just don't trust this offense that much right now. Now, on the flip side, I do trust Baltimore's offense, but I'm looking at that Zach Orr-led defense, and man, they've been very disappointing to start the year off so far. They gave up a ton of points to Buffalo, a ton of points to Detroit. They held Cleveland in check, but it's the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a game where I think the defense can start to flex their muscles a little bit. This Chiefs offense, in my opinion, is not very good. They can score points, but if Mahomes doesn't have any balance behind him, it makes life harder for him. And Mahomes has been incredible so far this year. I know they're 1-2, but Mahomes has been carrying this offense play after play after play because he just doesn't have the guys. Kelsey can't find separation. Thornton's a young player that makes a lot of mistakes. He's very young. They have zero rushing attack right now. Mahomes is their everything on the offensive end. They're relying on their defense, but even their defense has taken a bit of a step back from last year. So unless Mahomes puts on his super cape or his Superman cape and somehow wins this game, I think it's going to be very difficult for Kansas City. I just think they have a lot of things going against them. Whereas for Baltimore, a lot of their flaws are fixable things. Defensively, it's just cleaning up your coverage. It's cleaning up your technique. And from the coaching staff, it's cleaning up your play calling. I think Derrick Henry doesn't fumble in this game. I think he holds on to the football. I believe Lamar Jackson goes crazy, he has another big game. This is a massive game for both these teams. For Kansas City, man, if you want to stay in the race within your division, I feel like you got to win this one, especially with how good the Chargers are going. And for the Baltimore Ravens, man, if you want to even have a chance to make the playoffs this year, this is a big game because 1-3 is a tough place to be at. So I'm going to lean the Ravens to win this one. I just personally trust their offense more. And even though I think the Chiefs defense is better, I do believe this Ravens defense is good enough. So I'm going to lean the Baltimore Ravens here. I have the final score 34-28. Moving over to the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I got to tell you, Dallas is not winning this football game. Their defense straight up stinks. They're awful. And now you take out Tyler Booker and CeeDee Lamb on the offensive end, and you're basically telling Dak Prescott, hey, good luck out there. George Pickens will have a big game. I think they will try to run the football and limit the possessions for the Green Bay Packers. But if this Packers defense sacks Dak Prescott, gets them behind the line of scrimmage, or, maybe sets back their play calling in terms of can they force a 2nd and long? Because I think Dallas is going to try and eat up clock, run the football, go down the field in long drives. Like I'm talking 5+ minute drives to limit the possessions for Jordan Love and the Packers offense. But if the Packers can get the Dallas Cowboys behind the sticks, that really will help out this Packers defense. This Packers defense is really good. I know they gave up 13 to Cleveland and allowed them to come back late in that game, but they're a good defense. I think the Micah Parsons will go stupid in this game. I worry about this Cowboys offense because I don't know if they're good enough right now to methodically move the football down the field while eating up clock. And I just know this Packers defense can get them off the field. It's a tough game. I think this might be a bit of a shootout, and I think the team that's right now more equipped to win a shootout is clearly the Green Bay Packers. I don't think Dallas gets fully pantsed in this game because I think they're competent enough coaching-wise and quarterback-wise, but defensively speaking, they probably will not get a stop the entire game. They are a horrendous defense. I have the Packers winning. I think Micah Parsons gets at least 2 sacks. We'll wait and see. I had the Packers winning 37-24. Moving over to the Miami Dolphins versus the New York Jets. This is one of 2 Monday Night Football games, and I gotta be honest with you, neither one of these Monday Night Football games are all that interesting. The Jets versus the Dolphins, these are 2 teams that are not very good. I think they're both in my bottom 5 in my power rankings. Check out the power rankings video after this one, by the way. I do think the Miami Dolphins are starting to play better football. Tua still stinks. He's not a good quarterback. Let's be honest. Mike McDaniel's not a good head coach, but they're playing better football right now. Not perfect, not great, but they're playing better than what they showed in week 1. Whereas this Jets team has just been so up and down. They were really good in week 1 and then horrendous in week 2 and then horrendous for the first half of week 3 before showing this magical life in week 4. If Tyrod Taylor does start this game, I do feel better about the Jets than if it is Justin Fields. And I actually do think this Jets offense might get going in this game because the Miami Dolphins defense absolutely sucks as well. But when it comes down to it, I think Sauce Gardner will lock down, one of the receivers in terms of Sauce covering Tyreek or Waddle, but I think the other corner is going to struggle with the other one. I could see Tyreek Hill having a nice game this one. I think he bounces back. I'm going to lean the Miami Dolphins to win this game. Their schedule is pretty easy, and if they want to find a way to get back into this season, they need to start picking up some wins here, especially against some easier competition. I think they beat the Jets. The Jets, in my opinion, just are not there yet. They're a poor roster that has huge flaws that really hold them back. Miami has issues, but at the bare minimum, they have some explosive weapons, and I think they can move the football a little bit. So I'm going to lean with the Miami Dolphins here. I have the final score 28-20. And lastly, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Denver Broncos. Last week was about as ugly as it could have gotten for the Cincinnati Bengals, and even though I don't think the Bengals are a good team, and I've said it multiple times that their season is probably over at this point, I think they're better than what they showed last week. Not saying they're good, but they're better than what they showed. Last week was a complete embarrassment. I think they will play better in this game, but not too much better. I do think Cincinnati gets maybe a turnover or two that allows them to have some easy fields. I think they're going to have to force feed the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. If I'm the Bengals, I almost think that I have to become one-dimensional in a way because they just have a super inefficient run game right now that when they hand the ball off on 1st and 10, man, it gets 2 yards and you're 2nd and long. And it's just brutal for them. So I feel like you have to force feed the ball to your playmakers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Give those guys at least 12 targets, probably each, and see if they can make some plays down the field. Like I'm talking one-on-one jump balls. I'm just throwing them up in the air and seeing if they can make a play. Those guys are your best players, and I think you have to rely heavily on them because your offensive line sucks. Your running backs are not good enough right now. Your quarterback sucks, and he's very limited. And this defense straight up stinks as well. So you have to rely on your receivers. Unfortunately, you're going to be lining up against a Denver Broncos defense that's pretty darn good. Pat Surtain will be there. They got a number of guys in the secondary that can play pretty well. It's a tough matchup. I think the Broncos will win this game. I think they get multiple sacks. I think Cincinnati stays in this game for at least a couple quarters because they will get the ball out to their playmakers and allow them to make plays. But maybe more importantly, I think they get a few turnovers off of Bo Nix, maybe a fumble, maybe an interception that allows them to stay in the game. But at the same time, I do think Denver clicks on the offensive end. I think Bo Nix makes the layup. I think they make a few big plays down the field, and I think they open up this game. I have the Denver Broncos winning 31-21. Now, these are all my predictions for week 4 of the 2025 NFL season. You let me know in the comment section below which one do you agree with and which one do you disagree with. And if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.